In a world where shadows often conceal the deepest scars, some stories yearn to be told, voices that need to be heard. This is the journey of women who have faced the darkest moments of emotional, mental, and physical abuse. Their stories are about pain, resilience, courage, and the power of the human spirit. In Taking Off the Mask, we delve into the lives of these extraordinary women, each with a unique story of survival and strength. Through candid interviews and heartfelt confessions, they reveal the hidden truths of their past moments of fear, despair, and isolation. Yet, in the face of unimaginable adversity, they found the courage to rise. We follow their paths to recovery, witnessing the pivotal moments that sparked their journeys toward healing. From the support of loved ones to the transformative power of therapy and the unwavering faith that carried them through, these women share the tools and inspirations that help them reclaim their lives. Their stories are interwoven with the wisdom of experts, shedding light on the complexities of abuse and the profound impact it leaves. We explore the cycles of trauma, the long road to self-love, and the importance of breaking the silence. Guided by God's grace, these women found hope where there was none, strength in their weakest moments, and ultimately triumph in their battles. They remind us all that even in the darkest times, there is light, and we can overcome the most significant obstacles with faith and support. Join us as we honor their journeys, celebrate their victories, and amplify their voices. This is more than a documentary, it's a testament to the human spirit, a tribute to the unbreakable strength within us all. This is Taking Off the Mask.
My name is Michelle Angelique Poitier. I'm a transformational speaker, life recovery coach, author, and advocate. I'm the visionary and founder of Michelle Speaks with a Z. If you hide it, you can't heal it. And the visionary and founder of Huldah Ministries. I am so honored to be a part of this project because I am passionate about helping people to remove their masks, to release the imposter syndrome, and to really step into who they were created to be. So why do I do what I do? Growing up in my household, I don't know about any other household, but in the African American community, children were to be seen and not heard. And I encountered some things at a very young age, beginning at the age of 6, that no child should have to encounter. And before I even realized that I had a voice, my voice was stripped from me. You know, family is supposed to represent safety, security, provision, protection, all of that. And that's not what I experienced. You know, family to me was fear. Family to me was dark. Family to me was, it led me to not trust, not just myself, but anyone. I recall the first time that innocence was stripped from me. Some male family members in my family. It started with my uncle, but he violated me in the most vicious way, and it shifted something within me. I went from being this happy-go-lucky, carefree, vibrant little girl to becoming a shell, doing my best to shrink myself, to hide myself. And it got to the point that I did everything that I could do to stay away from the house that I grew up in. You know, my grandmother raised me from the time I was a baby until the time I was about 7, because my mother had gone off to the military to create a life, a better life than the life that she had growing up. And in the interim, I stayed with my grandmother, and that's where everything began. I recall coming home from school one day, and I was dreading going home because I knew what was going to happen. The closer I got to the house, the more silent I got. My heart started pounding. You know, the noise that I heard walking home, the cars going by, everything just evaporated. All I could think about was, can I get to my room without being seen? And as I walked into the house, you know, I tiptoed as best I could to the room. And when I got there, I just curled up into a fetal position. because I knew what was going to happen once it got dark outside. And so I just looked at the mirror, waiting, praying that what was about to happen wasn't going to happen. But at that time, my prayers weren't heard. And that was the beginning of me losing my voice and my boundaries being crossed before I even realized that I could have boundaries. And that's when the mask first appeared. And when I finally had the courage, after months, maybe it went on even maybe about a year, to tell my grandmother, I told her, and her response was, "Why did you wait so long to tell me? You must have enjoyed it." And I just shut down. That's when I learned the art of being a chameleon. That's when I learned how to shift, to adapt to my environment. Because I love my grandmother, God rest her soul. And I know she did the best that she could during that time. So I no longer harbor any anger or bitterness towards her, but during that time, it impacted me. And I began to wear a mask. I began to shrink myself. I began to become what people call a people pleaser. Shortly thereafter, I went on to stay with my mom. She was stationed in California, I believe, at the time. And she had called one day, and I said, I'm ready to come and be with you. Why haven't you sent for me? And that was when I learned, sometimes things go on in family dynamics that children know nothing about. Because I didn't realize that my grandmother had told her that I did not want to come. And so having that conversation with my mom, it shifted something within me. So I learned at the age of 6 to trust no one, not family, not anyone. And so I went to live with my mom, and it was a wonderful time, but I was harboring a secret because I didn't tell my mom about it. I was ashamed because all that I kept hearing in my head were the words that my grandmother said. You didn't say anything because you enjoyed it. And then it made me think about the other instances. Maybe that was why it happened, because it didn't just stop with that uncle. It happened with cousins. It happened with my aunt's husband. I vividly recall staying at her house one night, and I was sleeping in the front room and they were in the back. But I felt really weird around him. I couldn't explain it, but I always felt weird, like he was always looking at me, and it made me feel uncomfortable. And so one night after my aunt went to sleep, he came into the living room and I saw him, and we made eye contact, and I just froze. And he did this little gesture. And as he walked towards me, I was just frozen. I wanted to move, but I couldn't. And he loomed over me, and he whispered in my ear as he took off my clothes and my nightgown, and he said, "If you say anything, I'm gonna kill your aunt." And so I just silenced the noise. He tried to penetrate me, but it wasn't successful, but it was excruciating. And when he was done, he tiptoed back into the bedroom. I went into the bathroom, and I was just walking around in circles. I was trying to clean myself up because it was bloody, and I was trying to keep quiet. And so I'm crying, but I'm crying inside because I don't want to make any noise, because I don't want him to kill my aunt. And I went and laid back down, and I cried myself to sleep, and I was just praying that it was a bad dream. But when I woke up the next morning, I realized that when I tried to move, I was sore, and I realized it wasn't a dream. So that began a cycle of being repeatedly violated by those that I was supposed to trust. And so when I was with my mom, that time period was a blur. But key things that I remember is that it seemed like I attracted people that wanted to violate me. And I started to believe that it was something that I did. It was my fault. I was doing things to attract this. So fast forward to my teenage years, still with my mom. We had, at that point, traveled overseas to Japan. I was in high school, and I was starting to act out because I say this all the time, you can only suppress trauma and pain for so long before it begins to show up in other areas in your life. And it was starting to show up. I was in school, I wasn't fitting in, I was the ugly duckling, I was the odd man out. I tried my best to fit in, but I wasn't. And so I started hanging out with an older crowd. I started hanging out with some of my mom's colleagues. And one particular night I went out and told her that I don't know what I told her. I told her I was going somewhere with friends, but went to this party in the barracks and was drinking with one of my girlfriends. I was probably about 16. And the gentleman that I was dating at the time, he was in the military, put something in my drink, and I didn't realize it till later. But what I do remember is waking up to him sodomizing me. And I couldn't do anything but keep silent because I wasn't supposed to be there. And so I started acting out after that because it was just too much. The memories from the past were starting to come up. And I started drinking a lot to try to forget. I started acting out. My mom was looking at me like I had two heads because she was like, "Who are you and where's my daughter?" And I couldn't tell her, one, because I was ashamed, and two, because we all know how mama bears can be. You know, I didn't want to tell her and then somebody get in trouble because of me because I was where I wasn't supposed to be. So I didn't tell her. But that was the first of 5 failed suicide attempts because I couldn't take the memories that were coming up. So fast forward, I left Japan. I graduated from high school early, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, but I knew that I wanted to disconnect myself. I wanted to recreate myself from all of the function that I had grown up in. And so, I joined the military. I did what I knew to do. My mother was in the military. She had gotten married, so he was in the military. And that's what I knew. So I joined the military, one, because despite all that I've been through, I've always had a heart to serve. And what better way to serve than to serve my country? And two, that was a perfect way to recreate who I was. And so I joined the military and I ended up overseas in Pyeongtaek, Korea. And I remember that distinctly because I was one of the very few Navy personnel there because I was stationed on an Army installation. And it was at that installation that I met and married my ex-husband, who's now my ex-husband. But I met him and it was like he was everything that I thought a protector should be. He was 6'4", built like a brick wall. And I felt like if anybody tried to do anything to me, they would have to come through him first. And so he was my protector. He was my knight in shining armor. But quickly that turned out to be just another lie that I created in my head. Because we had a very combustive relationship. Because at that time, I made up my mind that nobody was going to violate me, and that they tried. We were going to be moving some furniture. So I was very quiet, but very combative when I felt like somebody was trying to take advantage of me. And so right off the bat, I felt like he was trying to be controlling, though I liked him. And so we had a number of fights. We used to go out a lot. I was drinking a lot then. We went out to this club and he was with his friends, I was with mine. And then I guess, I don't know what happened, but he was like, "You need to go home." And I was like, who are you talking to? Like, I'm grown. And so long story short, we ended up having a fight. And that was the first of many to come. That kind of set the tone of our relationship. We'd fight, make up, fight, make up. So I ended up getting pregnant. So we got married. And it was a very combustible marriage because everything that I had made up in my mind that it was a lie. You know, the abuse started early. It was physical, mental, emotional, sexual, any kind of abuse that you could think of. That's what our marriage consisted of. But I was determined to make it work because I had made a covenant and I had had a child, and I didn't want my child to grow up in a one-parent home, which was my upbringing, and so I didn't want that for her. And it got to the point, you know, we were trying to make it work, but then it just got to be too much. There were so many things coming up out of the woodwork, so many women that were coming out of the woodwork. There was a lot of infidelity. There was a lot of knockdown, drag out fights because of that, because it just was. And I got to the point where I just tried to justify all the things that he was doing because I wanted to make my marriage work, to the point that whatever he wanted, whatever he asked for, I did, which included, you know, I felt like, you know, that old saying, if you can't beat them, join them. And so he was very much into the nightlife. He was a PR, he was security, he was, you know, a lot of things. We had started a mobile catering company, so he was doing a lot in the nightlife, and I wanted to keep up with him, so I joined him. And in that nightlife, he used to frequent a lot of strip clubs. And, you know, there was this one thing he kept asking me, and I kept saying no, but then I just finally gave in. He wanted to do a menage a trois. He wanted another woman in our bedroom. And so I rationalized it. I was like, okay. So we went to a strip club to select a woman. And, you know, I had a couple of lap dances and finally selected one, and we went home. We brought her home with us. And that, I would have to say, is one of the lowest moments in my life because I just blanked out. I was like, whatever I need to do, I'm going to preserve my marriage. But I was actually just destroying it. And so it got to the point that I couldn't do it anymore. We were going out every weekend. We were picking up different women. We were just doing everything that under the sun. And I got to the point where just my physical mind, my emotional mind, my spiritual mind, my mental, it couldn't take it. And so I didn't have a relationship with God at that time. I had a head knowledge of him. I knew religion, I didn't know God. And I know one night I just cried out to him. I was like, God, I can't take this anymore. I can't do this. I'm too weak to leave this man. But I can't continue on like the path that we're on. Because what am I teaching my daughter? And it was at that point, it was that night that God met me. So, long story short, God met me, and that was my saving grace, because at that point in time, I think I was at the 4th of 5 failed suicide attempts because of all that I'd endured and all that. It got to the point that I just couldn't push my way through. I couldn't succeed my way through. I couldn't pretend my way through. I had to call on a higher power, and that higher power was my Abba Father. And when I did that, so many things started coming up, and I realized I ended up being homeless for a period of time, for about 6 months, because I had spiraled so much. I had lost, I'd gotten out of the military, but I'd lost my job, I'd lost a relationship, I'd lost my car, I lost everything. I had spiraled because I was diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And it was triggered not only by the things that I endured in my marriage in the military, but by my upbringing. It just all came to a head. But I anchored back to and what triggered it was when I was in the military before I married my husband at the time, I was violated by a fellow service member. And so it all came to a head when I got out. And I have never felt so alone, so unworthy, so ashamed. And when I was trying to seek help, all I got was, you need therapy, or, you know, you're just what do you call it? I'm exaggerating, and I wasn't. So, you know, after bouts of therapy and counseling and medication, you know, medication that wasn't helping, and therapy that wasn't helping, because when you have compounded trauma, there's certain types of therapy that don't help you. It actually makes it worse. And so the therapy that I was prescribed was prolonged exposure. So they wanted me to go back through every trauma that I encountered. And as I tried to do that, it was just making me worse. And so I realized that I just couldn't. I really had to lean on my Abba Father, my relationship with God, to get me through, because that wasn't working. And so what that caused me to do was really to be reflective and to think about all that I had been through, all that I felt like I was alone in. But when I finally really released it and gave it to God, He started showing me my pathway back to life. And I was able to really to confront the mask that I was wearing. And I was able to release and remove that mask. And so, you know, there's an acronym that I have for unmasking, because we can't truly begin to heal until we're able to face the things that we don't want to face. And so unmask the hurt within, to nurture the longing within, to manifest your dreams, goals, and desires, to truly come alive, to be safe, to be you, and to attract the kindred connections that were already preordained before your life. And so you have to be strong enough and courageous enough to face the thing that you don't think you can face. And you have to release the shame, because silence breeds sickness. We have to stop protecting perpetrators, and we have to start protecting those that are vulnerable. So I say all that to say, until you unmask, you won't be able to show up fully. You won't be able to walk in what God has purposed you to do. You won't be able to be unashamed and reflect His glory. And so all of that pain that I endured, all of the things that I went through, it equipped me and it prepared me to go back and help others that are silently walking in shame, that are silently, day by day, looking for a reason not to end their lives, looking for a reason not to give up. And so that inspired me to start Michelle Speaks. If you hide it, you can't heal it. And that inspired me to go back and help other, not just women and women veterans, but people in general, because pain is pain. It knows no gender. And so through Michelle Speaks, I travel speaking, bringing life to those that have feeling despondent. And I also coach those, helping them walk through trauma through my programs, Unmasking the Hurt, Redefine Your Life Path, and the Foundation of Freedom. But I also partner with other organizations, an organization called AWA, American Warriors Association, where I facilitate retreats for women veterans that have encountered trauma or sexual assault, or, you know, have mental illness secondary to trauma. And for a week, I pour into them, helping them to anchor their identity back in Christ and not in their trauma. And so I want to encourage someone that may be straddling the fence, wondering if they should end it all. Someone that is straddling the fence, wondering whether or not they should denounce God. Don't denounce God, because God was with you and He is with you. and he desires to save you and set you free. And so I encourage you to get up, get out, and speak out, because you're not alone. You matter. Your voice matters. You're seen, you're heard, and you're loved. And so if you want to connect with me, reach out to me at www.michellespeakswithaz.com, Michellespeakswithaz.com. Join our Empower to Thrive community. Connect with me online at YouTube. All of my social media handles are Michelle Speaks with a Z. So that's YouTube, that's TikTok, that's Facebook, and that's Instagram. Connect with me if you need support. Connect with me if you are straddling the fence because you don't want to make a permanent decision based on a temporary circumstance. Okay. So what's upcoming? What am I doing now to give back? Well, I want to share with you that because of the work that I've done in the community, I was inducted and nominated and inducted into the Florida Department of Veterans Hall of Fame Society. So if you're ever up at the Capitol in Tallahassee, take a look inside on one of those little plaques in there, and you'll see my name for the work that I'm doing. And it's, it's not to lift up me, but it's to lift up Christ, because I could do none of this without him and his saving grace. What do we have upcoming up? June, July, and August, I'll be facilitating retreats for AWA. So if you want to participate and attend a retreat, just look up AWA, American Warriors Association, click on the application and apply. And I want to see you there. Let's make this journey together. So in closing, I want to say to those that are listening in, it doesn't matter what your beginning was. It doesn't determine your end. Don't allow your past to impact your present or your future. If you feel like you're all alone, you're not. If you feel like you've reached and you've attained all this external success, but you still feel unfulfilled, that's because there's a void within that needs to be filled. And it can only be filled by our Abba Father, by a relationship with him. So I ask you, I charge you, and I commend you to face the pain. Because every time you face it, every time you confront it, you've conquered it. And I charge you to turn that mess into your message, to turn that tragedy into your triumph. Because for every test, there's a testimony. And you are testimony waiting to be heard, to be seen, and to impact the lives of others, because we were put on this earth to help one another. I hope that my pain will help you to find your passion, to help you discover your purpose, so that you can walk in power.
Can you see beneath the mask? Do you see the pain that's concealed, afraid to reveal how I truly feel? Day in, day out, I strive to appear strong, confident, and in control. But in reality, there is a war raging within my soul. So many times you look and only see the surface. Who will take the time to look beyond and see my true purpose? Who will take the time to caress my very essence and partake of the gift shared in my presence? I see the pain beneath the mask of others in the world today. How, you may ask? I see what once was reflected in me. Many are starving for that thing we all crave: acceptance, love, and affection. Often the world offers exactly the opposite: apathy, hate, and rejection. There is a place where the mask can be removed, a place where you can be free. Are you brave enough to unveil and allow others to see beneath the mask? This poem is penned by Michelle Angelique Poitier, aka Michelle Speaks with a Z. If you hide it, you can't heal it.